Hello, welcome back to this Drafty House. My name is Lindsay and I am a mother and a hobbyist and a yarn dyer based in Hamilton, Ontario. This channel, these videos are just a way for me to share the things that I'm passionate about, and that's always a revolving door of things. I talk about knitting, I talk about sewing, gardening, and a lot of reading and books. So welcome. If this is the first time you're joining, then I'm so happy you're here. If you're a repeat watcher, then I am like so happy that you're back and you can put up with my rambling. So let's get started. Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. There's some gardening stuff, there's some knitting stuff, and there's lots of books. A lot of books. You can't see the stack of books beside me here, and there's a stack of books behind me here, another stack of books down here. So I'm gonna get all of the other stuff out of the way, and then we're gonna chat about books. Because I know I'm getting so many amazing comments and so many amazing messages from people that they're loving the book talk stuff. So, and that's kind of what I really want to talk about. I'll start by saying that I'm wearing my new finished object. I started this last year, finally finished it. I love it. This is the first time I'm wearing it. I did weave in all my ends. I actually weave them in as I knit, which makes it much more bearable. But this is the Aros sweater from PetiteKnit. I knit this with Holst Garn. It's held double. They're really tiny cakes. I don't have any close by. I do, I lied. They look like this. Nice and tiny. And they are from Denmark. Love this stuff. It's great. It bloomed beautifully. The drape is really nice. And each one of these I had a little bit left. I did play Yarn Chicken towards the end. You can see here. But I think it turned out. So this is it with a dress, and I went with wide sleeves. Love it. Would I make another one of these? Yes, I would. The construction is really nice. As you can see, you work your short rows as you're working, so you work flat first, and then you work towards building your neckline, and then you join and knit in the round. Then you pick up and knit your neckband after. And I did go back. I had previously knit a different color for the cuffs. I didn't like it because it was a different brand of yarn. Even though it was the same weight, it was too dense. So I ended up frogging it and knitting these again with the pink. And then I did the neck with the pink, and then the bottom is in the continuation of the stripe. So can't even really tell. And I love it. So that's my FO. Just one. And I kind of have half of another one somewhere. I finished a sock. Ta-da! This is knit with my Fiber Scouts Wes Anderson Yarn Club. This is the March one, which is inspired by the Royal Tenenbaums. This is actually also my new sock pattern. It's a vanilla sock. Really simple, small details. It's called the Simple Sewing sock because gardening. And I will have this out this month. Life has just been life, you know? But that is the first sock done. I still have to do the second sock, obviously. But that is all of my finished knitting. And I do have new cast-ons. I was humming and hawing over starting a sweater, even though I technically have a sweater that I could finish that's not finished. It needs sleeves, but I started some socks. And I think I'm just gonna stick to socks for a little bit. They are something that is mindless. It's small, it's portable, you can bring it anywhere. And I've dyed up a bunch of new sock sets as of late, which are in the shop. But that's where I'm at with this one. Just a cuff, but it's a really pretty color. And I don't have the mini with me, but the mini skein that goes with this one is the color of my nails. So it will be really fun once I knit that up. And then the other sock that I'm working on is for a knit along. So a bunch of us have pooled together to host a knit along. It is for our friend Morgan of the Knitting Nelly. She's been going through some health stuff as of late. She suffered a concussion and it has prevented her from being able to work. So we have started a knit along and it's really simple. Your whips are welcome. You don't even need to finish the project that you're knitting for the duration of the knit along. I'll read you some info so that I don't mess it up. But there's a hashtag going around, so it's hashtag KNITALONG. It's gonna be running from May 7th until July 2nd. And it's really simple. All you have to do is knit one of her patterns. So I'm gonna show you what I'm knitting. Maybe. So I am knitting the Bits and Bobs socks that she has designed. And I'm knitting mine with a natural, I believe it's Cheviot and Dorset wool, the main, like this creamy color here. It's from Emma from the Woolly Mammoth Fiber Company. She's an Irish dyer, natural dyer. I've talked about her before. And I had this caked up skein of Spin Cycle that I didn't know what to do with, so I kind of pulled it and I'm just knitting with it. So my socks will be different, but they'll go together because it's all from the same thing. But to enter the knit along, all we ask is that you tag Morgan, and her Instagram is Shop Knitting Nelly, and use the hashtag. And we, all of us who are participating in this and hosting it together, we all have a sign up form in our bios on Instagram. And all you have to do is enter your information. And it's so simple, and we're doing weekly prizes. So I will include all of the information in the description, and hopefully you can join us because it's a lot of fun. And I'm just picking this up and knitting this during my lunch break every day. And yeah, it's like one of those really easy patterns. She has so many beautiful patterns to pick from. So hopefully you'll be able to find something that you like. That's pretty much it for me on the knitting front. I have not been knitting a lot. I've been reading a lot, but I've not been knitting a lot. We have set up our little free library, and it has been so popular. So the behind you, where my camera is just this massive collection of books because the neighbors in the area have seen how popular it is, so they're starting to drop off donations. We have so many donations right now, which is so great. But it's been really popular, and it's just made it all worth it. So if you're thinking about doing a little free library, you should probably do it. It's so great. I love it so much. Gardening, I started some seeds. I'm playing it really safe this year. I'm only doing zinnias, and I'm gonna be doing dahlias again, but that's different. Those are tubers. They get planted directly into my barrels. But I started some zinnia seeds, and they're doing pretty good. They're getting a little leggy, so I think I'm gonna have to take the dome off, and I might prop them in front of a window and then get a little fan action going to try and like get them a little bit stronger. And then yeah, my dahlia tubers arrived. I got some cafe au lait this year, and I'm really, really excited to plant those. Last year I went dahlia crazy. I kind of had a lot, and they produced a lot, and then I stored them. I clearly didn't do a very good enough job because they were not plantable again this year, which is totally fine. I'm still learning. But I'm only going to be planting 3 varieties this year. And I'm really excited. I went with a really limited palette. It's the Cafe au Lait, which is kind of like a creamy blush. There's another one, I don't remember what it's called. I know one of them is called Shiloh, and then there's another one. But they're creamy blush. There's one that's like a apricot, like goes between blush and orange. And then there's like a dusty, creamy lavender colored one. So I think the 3 colors together are going to go really pretty. If the zinnias take, they're going to go really pretty. I kept enough seeds back from the zinnias to be able to direct sow outside as well. So that's my plan. We'll see, you know. Last year I was crazy about gardening. This year I'm still very into it, but I'm also just kind of like, if it doesn't take, then that's fine. We're still learning, and we had our trees pruned by the city, so the front gardens, I don't know what to expect. We're getting so much more sunshine this year than we did previous years because they really cut back a lot of our trees. So I feel like we're starting from scratch all over again, but that's okay. I mean, it's fun and exciting. So books. Are you ready for books? I'm so ready for books. We have so much to talk about, and we're already like a week into May, 11 days into May, so I'm kind of wondering if I talk about what I've already read for this month too, or if I save that for next month's video. I'm struggling on that front, so I think I'm just going to start at the beginning of April and go through that. I'm going to start with a book haul and share the books that I've gotten, and then I'm going to talk about the books that I've read. And then I'm going to talk about some Literary Society stuff, which is the book club that I host. And yeah, just books. I love it so much. Okay, 1 second. Okay, are you ready for this? Okay, so let's start with a book haul. There's a lot. And I feel like in previous book hauls, they have been very fantasy driven. This is still a lot of fantasy, but I feel like we're starting to kind of get some more variety here. So okay, we're gonna start. These are not a part of the book haul. So I just don't even know where to start. Okay. I do have a book haul started for this month, so I think I'm gonna save those, and actually, because this is a lot of books. Yeah, and this doesn't even include like audiobooks or ebooks. And this doesn't include my special books that I get from like Fairy Loot and Illumicrate, and so we're gonna need some more bookshelves up in here. And now Nick is like fully invested in books. He even started his own book talk. It's really, it's great. It's been really great for us. So I think I'm gonna start. Can I do it? Okay. So some of my books were pre-orders, and I previously mentioned that I got the Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. He has since had the second book come out, which is The Hunger of the Gods, and so I picked up this. Don't ask me what this series is really about. I just hear that it's badass. And everybody who has read it has said nothing but amazing things. I also really appreciate a nice floppy book. Like, it's just so satisfying. I don't like breaking my spines, Nick does. I don't. So I really appreciate a floppy book like this. So this is the first book that I picked up, and it's really funny because I pre-ordered this and we went book shopping just on a whim. Nick wanted to go, and I ended up buying a physical copy before I had even received my pre-order copy, and then the pre-order copy showed up I think like the next day, and so I was like, well, that's just silly, so I ended up returning it. It is the second book in a series, and it's just supposed to be amazing. Packed with myth, magic, and bloody vengeance. Just sounds like a good time. I was previously gifted a copy of The Queen of the Tierling, and Nick gifted me The Invasion of the Tierling, which is the second book. So a lot of second books so far. This is another series. I recently saw somebody on TikTok post that this is one of their favorite book series that they've ever read. So I thought that was really promising. I don't really know. It says it's an intoxicating brew of dystopian fiction, high fantasy, science fiction, and a bit of horror. It's just like a little bit of everything. Yeah, it is a trilogy, so I still have to get the third book, but we're getting there. And I can appreciate that everything has been, like, I really love when books don't differ in their cover. Sometimes you get books where it's like, you know, like a matte cover, and then the second book comes out and it's like shiny, and I don't understand that. Like, keep it cohesive. I appreciate the cohesiveness. So this is another one. I'm not going to be going into super big detail about what some of these books are about. I feel like I can tend to blab on a little too long about that. This I picked up on a whim. This is called Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. And I loved, so the back of the book, it's mostly reviews from authors and, you know. But the thing that I loved about it is that it says, this isn't the kind of fairy tale where the princess marries the prince. It's the one where she kills him. Say no more. I want to know what this is about. And it's not a very big read. So I think that's really cool. I also really appreciate, so this is the cover art, you know, pretty cool. But I love the hardback. It's just so pretty. And then the end papers are really cool. So I'm very, very intrigued about this book. It had really good reviews online. So I will hopefully get to this very soon, hopefully. Then we kind of get into some different stuff here. I picked up this. I don't really know. Yeah, we'll save that one. Okay, so these next two books are by the same author. Before the Coffee Gets Cold and Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I think I said that right. I've heard really good things. These are books that have been popping up. The covers are really, really cute. Again, appreciate two books that go together, that actually look like they go together. And so from what I've gathered, the first book, it takes place in Tokyo and it revolves around a cafe. It's magic realism. So local legend says that this shop offers something else besides coffee, the chance to travel back in time. So we follow 4 customers who come into the cafe in hopes of making that journey and traveling back in time. And we follow each of their stories and we learn about why they want to go back in time. And I've just heard that it is such a special read, and everybody who reads it says that it's like one of the best books they've ever read. So I picked up both on a whim, and yeah, it sounds like a book the first one at least, sounds like a book that you read and it makes you stop and really wonder, if I was given this opportunity, how would I use it and why? So I'm really, really excited to read these. I actually put this forward as an option for my book club this month. It didn't win, but that's okay. I think even just maybe talking about it, maybe others will want to read it and do a buddy read with me. But on the front of the book, it says, "What would you change if you could travel back in time?" So I'm really excited to read these. They're not big books, so again, I feel like they would be really great quick reads. The last two fantasy books, I got the Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Mueller. And it says, "Charm is a traitor, a witch, a whore, a prisoner, a survivor. And now she must also solve the Emperor's murder." This is on my TBR. So I'm excited to pick this up and have this in my, oh, that's fun, my arsenal on my bookshelf. The cover art is really, really pretty. And then without the dust jacket, the inside is this blue, which is a really interesting choice. And the foiling on the side is like a rose gold. So I picked up this one. I feel like it's been a book that's been mentioned a few times, so maybe you're familiar with it. And then this one, I don't know anything about. I read the back of it when I was at the bookstore, and it sounded really interesting. So this is The Lights of Prague by Nicole Jarvis. And it is on the back it says, "It's a refreshing historical fantasy about class and the hunger for power. Fantasy fans will gobble up this moody philosophical adventure." And I think I looked it up on Goodreads and it had good reviews. And I really liked her dedication. The dedication is, "To my mom, my first reader." Just super cute. So I picked this up on a whim. I'll get to it eventually. And then I've been reading, so in between, sometimes with fantasy, most of the times with fantasy, they are series and you have to like dedicate yourself to many, many books and characters, and you go on this adventure and you give a piece of yourself to them. And sometimes you need what I like to call like a palate cleanser. And for me, that has been reading romance books. I used to think that calling myself a romantic was like a weakness, but I'm coming to terms with the fact that I'm a romantic and there's nothing wrong with that. And I love it. And I'm that person that will swoon in a movie. My husband, if we're watching a movie and something is happening between the two characters and, you know, love is blossoming and you're just waiting for them to like figure it out, or you're just waiting for like that first kiss or whatever it is, my husband will actually not watch the movie. He turns to watch me because I just can't keep my poker face on, and I swoon. I am a swooner. So I picked up some light romance, but I also picked up some dark romance. And so for the dark romance, I have been reading a lot of Emily, I hope I say this right, McIntyre. I previously talked about Hook, which is a dark fairy tale retelling-ish. And Hooked is Peter Pan. It is really good. It is, look up the trigger warnings. There are trigger warnings. There is, you know, it's not so much about the good guy. It's actually all about the villain. I love it. And then I read her second book, which is called Scarred. I loved that even more. And so she just came out with her third book, which is Wretched. And this one actually, in the first two books, you're following Hook and you're following Scar. And and they're the two male villains that we know from Peter Pan and Lion King. Wretched follows a female villain, and I'm almost certain that it's the Wicked Witch. Yeah, so it is the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz. And inside all of her books, she'll have a quote. So like the quote for this one is, "A heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others." And then the next page is the author's note. And so every single one of her books starts with, "Wretched is a dark contemporary romance. It is a fractured fairy tale, not fantasy or retelling." So there you go. It's a fractured fairy tale. "The main character is a villain. If you're looking for a safe read, you will not find it in these pages." These are like binge-worthy books. If you like romance, if you like mystery, if you like intrigue, if you like spice, but the thing that gets me is that they're like clearly not good people. Like they're bad, but at the same time, they're good. It makes no sense. Like Hook in Hooked, clearly a bad guy. Like he's not a good person, but he cares about Wendy, and he starts to realize that like, I will do anything for this person. And so you're like, you swoon. It's so messed up. So anyways, I picked this up. I'm really excited to read it. I think this is going to get read this month. I've been holding off on reading it because I think I read Hooked in 2 nights and I read Scarred in a day. Like, it consumes me and I can't stop. And so anyways, I got this. I'm really excited to read it. It is at the top of my list. I'll most likely read it this month. So yes. Then I picked up these. This is a series. I've never heard of this author before. I had never heard of these books. I was just perusing the romance section at my bookstore. And I got these, and I think that they're in the right order. So these are by Helen Hart. I've got Follow Me Darkly, Follow Me Always, and Follow Me Under. There's not really much to say. It's a dark romance. I picked it up. Apparently this author has a lot of books, so if these are good, then that's promising. Again, I really appreciate when the books are very much all the same. So I also picked these up. I'm very excited to read these. I feel like this will be like a good binge-worthy series. And I don't know if there's more books to it than this. Like I said, she's got so many books. Let me quickly pull this up. Yeah, she's got so many books. Let me find these ones specifically. Okay, so the series is called Follow Me. There are 4 works total, 3 primary works. So this is from the female's perspective, and then it looks like she has, the last book came out in 2021, and it's called Darkly, and I think this is from his perspective. I'm hoping that this is just like a better version of 50 Shades. I mean, we all read 50 Shades. It's not written very well. So, yeah. I picked this up. So we'll see. We'll see. And then, lighthearted romance. I picked up a couple of things. I picked up this book called By Any Other Name by Lauren Kate. Had not heard of it. Again, it'll be like a really quick read. Like, I feel like this is like, you know, a one-nighter book. And then I picked up Beach Read by Emily Henry. And yes, I have book lovers. I'll talk about that in my next video. And it's so funny because I keep seeing things on TikTok popping up where people are like, Emily Henry. And then they're like, she's destroyed me. So I'm really excited to give this a read. I think I'm going to save this book for summer. And that is my book haul for April, minus my special edition books that I got. And for my special edition books, I got some good stuff. None of these books, I don't know anything about any of these books. I will say that. They're all new to me. So with Fairy Loot, sometimes they send you the I'll say most of the books are hardcover books, and then every few months you get a paperback as well. So last month I got the hardcover, but it also came with a bonus paperback book. So for the hardcover, I'm so excited about, I've never heard of this book before. It sounds really, really interesting. The author is Deborah Follet. She's a Nigerian Canadian, and she actually just lives in Toronto. So she's local, which I think is just so cool. The book itself is so colorful. I feel like for the longest time, all of the books were black and dark, and like if you look, this is my special edition book, like where I keep all mine, and they're all dark until we got to this one here. So this is really bold and colorful. The sprayed edges are this nice royal blue. And then what I loved and thought was really neat is that when you take off the dust jacket, it's just the artwork. So they kept the dust jacket artwork and actually just put it right onto the hardcover without the title on the front. This is a reversible dust jacket, which is also always really fun. So this is the inside. So that was the first one. And then for the paperback that I got, also have never heard of this book. It is so beautiful, and it's called An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan. And on the back it says, this luminous love story cuts bone deep. So this is the cover. It is beautiful. And then the sprayed edges. And then both books are signed by the authors, which is always really fun. But you can see this one is stiffer. So this will be a hard one to not break the spine on. But it's so beautiful. And again, it's colorful, which is nice. Adds a splash of color to my bookshelf. Then I got this next one from, where did I get this one from? This one's from Owl Crate. Again, I had never previously heard of this one. The cover art on it is really pretty. So this one's called Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. It's really beautiful. I don't know what the original one looks like. It does not have sprayed edges, but it does look like this, and you can see it's very shiny. And then it is a reversible dust jacket. Beautiful. Look at those guys. I also love when you can kind of put like faces to the characters. So very intrigued by that. And then the inside is where they did the gold leafing, and it's pink. I don't know if you can see the shininess. And it carries over onto the next page with the autograph. So it's just a really, the little details. I really appreciate the little details. And then this book is from Illumicrate. Never heard of this. There are slight subtle differences from the original cover because I did look it up. I don't know anything about this book. Again, I had never previously heard of it. And on the back it says, Will could hear the sirens. They sounded like a promise. And the book is called Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. You can see his glasses are shiny, but the rest of the book is matte. Again, it's colorful, yellow sprayed edges. And then when you open it, I loved the gold leafing on this. Tigers. Super fun. It is signed. Nope, maybe. Is it? Yes, it is. Very small signature. There. And then the dust jacket itself is also reversible. And I think these are the main characters. So that was super fun to find on the inside of the book as well. Now that I have a few of these under my belt, I'm going to be switching from getting the full box to just doing the book only. I like some of the items that I get, and I keep everything right now. But some of the things are just things that I know I won't use, so I'm actually saving up stuff, and I'm probably going to do a giveaway at some point on here, so that other people can appreciate it. But one of the things that I got with the Portrait of a Thief book was this little jar thing. So I'm keeping all my bookmarks in it. It's really cute. And it is just a book. On the front it says a picture of art history. On the side it says art history, painting, sculpting, architecture. And then on the back it says a glimpse into the imagination of our greatest artists. So like these are some of the things that come in the boxes, which I think are really cute and I like. And then there are some things that come where I'm just like, I don't ever see myself using it. So stay tuned for that. That'll happen at some point. But yes, those are my books from April. It's a lot of books. And now I'm going to chat about what I've read and what I'm going to be reading this month, or maybe I will just talk about what I've read this month, because some of those books are just like haunting me now. So let's get started. Okay, so for April, I'm going to refer to my reading journal, which I'm going to be doing a video on. I wanted to wait until June and just do the first 6 months, and then I'll probably wait and do another wrap-up video at the end of the year on my reading journal. I've learned a lot, and I've seen how it's kind of changed as I've progressed. But for April, I'll show you my cover page at least. I went with Bees and Honey. And this page is always dedicated to a quote. I just need to actually pick a quote and fill it out. But I read 10 books last month. It wasn't my best month, but I read a good mix of a lot of fantasy. It was mostly fantasy. We'll say that. So I'm currently in the middle of reading a series, or I could start the third book. I started this in March and I finished it in April. It's called The Song of the Marked by S.M. Gaither. And I love it. If you love ACOTAR, or Throne of Glass, things like that, then you will love this series. The characters are so well written. You've got found family, you've got a one-bed trope, enemies to lovers, amazing world building. There's so much action, and there's politics, and there's gods and goddesses, but not in this, like, it's not Greek gods and goddesses or anything like that. Like, they are just these all-powerful beings. It's forbidden romance. There's chemistry, and there's stubbornness, and it's fantastic. I gave it 4 stars. Really love it a lot. I read it on my Kindle, and I don't even know how I came about it. I think it was like a recommended book read. Like I finished a book and it was like, you might like this. And so I took a chance and I loved it. And then I read book 2, which is called A Twist of the Blade by the same author, S.M. Gaither. I gave it 4 stars as well. It is the second book in a series, so it's doing all of the things that it's supposed to do, and it's doing them well. It's continuing the story. It's building momentum. It's like, it's so good. It leaves off exactly where the first book ends, which I love. Like, literally, if you just flipped the page, it's like the story just continues. I love that no time has passed. It's just right where it left off. So much happens. There's so much world building. The magic and the main characters, and can you tell that I really like it? So I've been putting off reading the third book because it's an unfinished series, and I'm waiting on so many like next books to come out that I'm like, I need to slow it down, savor it, because I'm gonna get to that point where it ends and the next book's not out yet, and then I have to wait, and that's just torture. If you know, you know. I also, in March, I began reading, I think it's called Crave. Yeah, I started the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. I read book 2 and 3. Book 2 I gave 3.5 stars. I did the audiobook. It's good. I found myself zoning out. It's a lot. And it's like each book picks up from where the last book ended. And I think, like, I'm listening to the audiobooks, and I think they're each around 24 hours. I know from looking at them in the store, they're like, 600 plus page books. Like, they're a lot. Like, one of the books got up to like 130 plus chapters, which I get. Like, there's sometimes when you get into these fantasy books, there's so much happening, and you obviously need like all of the backstory. Towards the end of me reading the third book, which I gave 4 stars, the third book was much better than the second book. The second book was much better than the first book. I have since finished the 4th book. I think I gave it 3 stars. And it's an unfinished series. I think book 5 is coming out later this year. I'm at the point now where how many different things can happen to these characters. Will I read the 5th book? Yes. Is it my favorite series? No. It's good, but not my favorite. Then I read an ARC, an advanced reader's copy called Shadow Kissed by Rebecca L. Garcia. I believe it is out now. It is a vampires, witches, that kind of fantasy read. It follows a sorceress who is stolen away to a vampire kingdom, and she doesn't really understand why. Basically, a sorceress is very important to a vampire, but she is kind of, I guess, what you would call like an untrained sorceress. So she doesn't have she has her magic, but she just doesn't, she's never been taught how to use it. So she doesn't know what she's doing. So she's stolen away to a vampire kingdom. And the male main character is the vampire, and he is, I guess, what you would call more of a new vampire. So there's the vampire king, who is like, hundreds, maybe thousands of years old. And then there's this vampire, and he was only turned like a few years ago. So they're very close in age. There's that whole I don't like you thing going on between the two of them. They're both super stubborn, very set in their ways. There's going to be a second book. So it ends, and when the book ended, I was like, wait, what? And not in a good way. Like, I feel like there was so much left unsaid. And I know like the second book will be coming out, so I'm going to read it because it ended and I was like, what the hell? The writing was okay. The story was a little bit flat. It had everything that it needed. I just felt like it needed almost like more backstory. Like you kind of had to piece things together for yourself and figure out like, okay, why wasn't she shown how to use her magic? Or why is this vampire so grumpy? It wasn't, I think I gave it 3 stars. So, I mean, it was a really decent book, just not my favorite. But will I read the second book? Yes, because I'm a person that once I start something, I need to finish it. So that was Shadow Kissed by Rebecca L. Garcia. Then I read Scarred, which I know I previously mentioned when I talked about Wretched. This I gave 4.5 stars. When I say that this book consumed me, I mean like I had things that I needed to do and I abandoned those things. I didn't abandon my kids. I still parented. But like, you know, did I have a shower when I could have had a shower? No, I chose to read a book. So here are my notes. Loved it. __! Exclamation mark. Another fractured fairy tale. This time it's inspired by The Lion King. But it's set in the early 1900s, so it's more regal and like they, you know, like they wear dresses, like modest dresses, like you don't see anybody's ankles, like that's a thing. The writing was great. The plot twist kept me guessing the whole time. I was like, where's this going? Something would happen and be like, okay, I know what's happening. And then the next page, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. It was really, really good. You can't help but love the villains who aren't really that evil. Okay, so like it gave me a new perspective on Scar because you watch the Disney animated movie and you're like, Mufasa is this like amazing lion. And then Simba, and then you feel bad for Simba because Scar comes in and Scar is just evil. But then this book completely flips that perspective on its axis and you're like, there are so many different perspectives that you can take something. So like I mentioned with her books, they're what you would consider to be a villain or a bad guy, but really they've been backed into a corner and to the point where they then have to like either, you know, shut up and take it or do something to defend themselves. So they're not really that bad. I loved it. It was so great. It does have multiple perspectives. So you're reading from her perspective and you're reading from his perspective. And it is a forbidden romance, but at the same time, the magnetic pull between them, like they cannot stay apart. Like it's one of those things where, you know, they walk into a room full of people and they immediately know that the other person is there. Like it's just, the chemistry was great. The romance was good. The spice was fantastic. Yeah, it was really good. I really, really liked it. So I can't wait to read the next one. Then I have the physical books that I guess I have actually a few physical books. So yeah, this is Scarred. I mean, it's a little bit juicier than Hooked. Like, I love this book so much. The book that we read for book club last month was A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This is like a beautiful fantasy. It was giving me Outlander vibes. The writing is absolutely stunning. The world building and the politics and the chemistry and just the characters kind of coming into themselves and making these realizations. It was beautiful. It ended on a cliffhanger because there is going to be a second book that's, I think, coming out this year, she shared the cover art already. So I'm pretty sure it's a duology. It's beautiful. This is my Illumicrate edition. So I was really happy to read this. It was beautiful, and I know from everybody else that read along with me last month, they all thought the same. I did a tandem read, so I started out by reading just the book, and then I ended up adding in the audiobook because a bunch of people that were reading the book for last month did the audiobook, and they all kept saying the reader for the audiobook was so fantastic. So I was like, you know what? Sometimes it's like a really special thing to be able to sit and read the book and have somebody reading it to you while you read the pages. So I did that with that book. And yes, like it literally, I felt like I was transported to Credence, and it was just fantastic. Then I read Electric Idol, and it was good. If you previously saw one of my episodes, then you'll know that I read Neon Gods, and I gave it a gajillion stars. I loved it so much. That book consumed me. Like, that book, I was up reading until 3 a.m. This was fantastic. I think what I do prefer the Hades and Persephone storyline. I think they will always be my number one. They're always going to be my number one. This follows Psyche, who is Persephone's sister, and Aros. And this, what I love about Katie Robert is, yes, there's spice, and, you know, there's the drama and the villainous things that happen, but the men are just considerate, and they're like, Aros is basically hired. I mean, you'll know just by reading it, but he is Aphrodite's son, and so he's basically told by his mom that he needs to remove Psyche from this world. But he realizes that there is something about her, and he doesn't do what his mom wants him to do, and instead he starts to really like realize, and he's just considerate. And you know, this book touches on body issue, and that, you know, like Psyche she's more full figured, and people pick on her, and she doesn't let that bug her, and he becomes defensive of that, and he starts to realize that, like, you know, the way that she carries herself is amazing, and he admires that about her. And so there's a really soft, delicate side to these characters, which I really, really like. And the consent. Consent is like a big thing. Sometimes you read these books and the men just like overpower, and they're like, I'm gonna take what I want. There's just a lot of consideration that goes into these characters, and I really appreciate that. So I read this, loved it. Okay, so then I received an advanced reader's copy of her next book that's coming out. It's not out yet. I will tell you when it's coming out. Comes out June 7th. So Wicked Beauty is the third, and this one was really, really good too. Again, it's taking place in Olympus. You've still got the same characters. There's bleed through on what's happening, but this time it's following Achilles, Patroclus, and Helen. And spoiler alert, it is a three-way. It's, out of the three books, it's probably my number 3. But again, it's so well written. The world building is fantastic. The drama is great. The plot line was really interesting. I read a few reviews from people that said that they didn't like that it was Achilles, Patroclus, and Helen, because that's not the original 3. If you know, you know. But what I really liked about this is, or what I like that Katie Roberts does, and that's pretty much through all of her books that I've read so far from the Dark Olympus, well, all three of them, is the female characters are strong, empowered women. They're not these like weak women that need a man to come and save them. Do the men come in and help and try to save them? Yes. But they're still resilient and strong and powerful, and they're their own person. And I love that so much. And so that's very much the case with this book. Helen is, you know, she's got this persona and people see her this one particular way, which is evident in all of the books because, again, like these characters, you meet them throughout the entire series. But Achilles, again, has this persona. Like, he is seen as this big warrior and like nobody can destroy him or take him down. And Patroclus is seen as this like really kind-hearted man. And so like that's their balance. And then there's Helen, and Helen is seen as this like socialite. Like she's, you know, very materialistic and nobody cares about her like true feelings. And so you really get to see like a different side of these perspective. You get to see a different side of these characters, and then you get to see their chemistry together and how they all kind of balance each other out. So it's a little bit wild because it is a three-way, or like a love triangle. But again, like I feel like for books that have so much spice and everything else, the characters are just really well written and really thought out. So I really appreciate that when it comes to Katie Roberts and the way that she is writing these books. I have not read any of her other books, but have they moved to the top of my list? Yes, they have. So that, I think, is the 10 books that I read for last month. And I've already read 6 or 7 books this month, and we're only on the 11th day of May. I've been reading a lot. But one of the things that I wanted to chat about is the book that we're reading this month for Knittery Society is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And this is like a dark academia. I have not started yet. I'm very excited to start. I actually want to finish up one of the books. I like to have a physical book on the go at all times, and I'm almost kind of done a physical book, and then I plan to start this. So it's like a dark academia murder mystery. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book. I'm very excited to read this. And I was really, really excited that this is kind of the book that was voted on for Knittery Society. So if you would like to know more about the Knittery Society, it's a book club that I host. It is very casual. I have since moved it over to Patreon and Discord. It's $2 a month to join. You can come and go as you want, which I think is like the nicest thing about it. So not every book is going to appeal to every reader. I totally get that. But the thing that I love about book clubs is sometimes it pushes you out of your comfort zone and gets you to read things that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise read. So I know that I've heard that from some people that join in, which makes me really excited. So maybe I'll see you there. But yes, this is the book that we are reading for this month. And the book that I'm reading right now that I want to finish, and the only thing I'm going to talk about that I'm reading about this month, is my husband and I are reading ACOTAR together. Dreams really do come true. I read this last year. I listened to the audiobooks. Now I'm reading the physical books. He is much farther along than me. I'm about halfway. But it's been a lot of fun. I obviously know what happens in the story and I know where it goes, but it's really been exciting for me to see his reactions reading it for the first time. And it's funny because a few months ago I said, I saw a TikTok and a wife was like, my husband's reading ACOTAR because he saw how much I loved it. And so I joked and was like, would you ever read these books because I love them so much? And he was like, no. Now, fast forward, he's reading the books. and he's enjoying them. Like, to the point where he just came inside a little while ago, but he sat outside for an hour to read the book. So I'm really excited for him to experience this journey. I'm really excited to dive deeper into the rest of the books. Like, it's just going to be so great. So this is what we're reading together right now, which is really exciting. And I think I'm going to cap it there because that's a lot of books, and I want to be able to have stuff to talk to you about in the next video for the month of May, because it's already shaping up to be a fantastic month for reading. And I already have a pile of books started to talk about that I've acquired. Who knows, maybe I need to acquire another bookshelf. But anyways, thank you so much for being here, for supporting me on this channel, for listening to me ramble about books. Nick actually wants me to start a book talk because I read so much. So we'll see. Maybe I'll work up the nerve to do that at some point. But I hope that you're well. I hope that you're having a lovely spring wherever you are in the world, and I will be back soon with another video.